So, how does a country with over 1 billion people even begin to govern its smallest, most remote communities? It's a massive question. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible story of grassroots democracy in India's villages. It's a system that honestly is all about empowering millions to shape their very own destiny.
You know, Mahatma Gandhi really hit the nail on the head when he said this: "The real India lives in its villages." And this isn't just some poetic line, right? It's a deep, fundamental truth that really shapes the entire country's approach to governance.
And to really get your head around the scale of this, just look at this number: 600,000. That's how many villages are scattered all across the Indian landscape. We're talking from the snowy peaks of the Himalayas all the way down to the coastal plains. The sheer size of it, it's just staggering. And governing all of that, well, that's a monumental challenge, to say the least.
Which, of course, brings us right to the central question we're tackling today. How on earth do you govern them all? I mean, really think about it. How do you make sure every single one of those communities has a real voice and the actual power to solve its own problems?
Okay, to make this feel a bit more real, let's zoom in. Let's imagine a village called Lakshmanpur. It's a small place, maybe 700 people nestled in the Himalayas. Now, their concerns aren't about national policy, right? They're immediate. They're local. A road gets washed out by the monsoon rains, or the primary school desperately needs repairs. Obviously, they can't just run to the national capital for every little thing. So, what do?
Well, the answer lies in a system that was designed for this exact challenge. It's a really smart form of grassroots government, and it's built on this unique three-tiered structure. It's called Panchayati Raj. Now, the name itself is pretty cool. It literally means rule by the village council. And the whole goal here, the big idea, is to bring decision-making power as close to the people as humanly possible, to make them, the governors of their own lives.
So here's how it's all structured. The easiest way to think about it is like a pyramid. Right at the bottom, at the base, closest to the people, that's the Gram Panchayat. That's for the village. Then you move one level up. You've got the Panchayat Samiti at the block level, which kind of coordinates a bunch of villages. And then at the very top of the pyramid, overseeing the whole district, is the Zila Parishad. See? Each level is built to support the one below it.
And what's just fascinating to me is that this whole idea, it's not new. Not at all. I mean, while the modern system is fairly recent, the core concept of a structured village administration was described in incredible detail over 2,300 years ago. It's in this ancient text on statecraft called Kautilya's Arthashastra. It's just amazing to think about that, right? Ancient wisdom forming the very foundation of a modern democracy.
All right, so let's zoom right back in on that base level of the pyramid, because that's where the real power comes from. How do the folks in our village, Lakshmanpur, actually make their voices heard?
It all kicks off with something called the Gram Sabha. Now, get this. This isn't some council of elected officials. Nope. It's a meeting of all the adult voters in the entire village. It's pretty much the ultimate expression of direct democracy. Everyone gets a seat at the table to discuss issues, debate, and approve plans. Okay, so from that big meeting, the Gram Sabha, the villagers then elect their Gram Panchayat, which is basically the village council. This council is led by a village head called the Sarpanch, and they're the ones responsible for all the day-to-day stuff. We're talking fixing roads, managing the water supply, and maybe most importantly, making sure those big government welfare programs actually reach the people they're supposed to. And they don't do it alone. They're helped by administrative staff like a secretary and a patwari, who's the person in charge of all the crucial land records.
Now, this is one of the system's most powerful features, and it's all about inclusivity. To make absolutely sure that all voices are heard, at least 1/3 of the seats on these councils are reserved specifically for women. Plus, there are special provisions to guarantee representation for historically disadvantaged communities. It's a really conscious effort, to make the leadership actually reflect the people it serves.
Okay, so we've talked about the system, the structure, but how does this all translate into real-world impact? Because a system is only as good as the people who lead it, right? So let's look at a couple of incredible individuals who use this exact system to spark massive, game-changing change.
First up, meet Vandana Bahadur Mata. She became the very first female Sarpanch, that's village head of her village in Madhya Pradesh. Now, in a society that was really bound by patriarchal norms, this wasn't just an election win. It was a revolutionary act.
But here's the thing, she didn't just win an election, she completely transformed her community.
She went out there and actively convinced other women to come to the village meetings, to use their voice. She championed education for all kids. She improved sanitation. She became this powerful, living symbol of what's possible when new voices are finally given a platform.
All right, next, I want you to meet Papatrao Baguji Pahar. He's from a village in Maharashtra that used to be just constantly plagued by drought. I mean, a really tough situation. He saw this bleak future for his home and decided no way. He was going to use the power of the Sarpanch to completely rewrite that future.
And he did. He mobilized the entire village. They started implementing systematic rainwater harvesting, they led these massive watershed conservation projects, and they planted hundreds of thousands of trees. So what happened? All that work recharged the groundwater, and in just a few years, they turned what was a barren, dry land into a green, prosperous village. His work was so impactful, so transformative, that he was awarded one of India's highest civilian honors, the Padma Shri.
So you see, leaders like Vandana and Papatrao didn't just transform their villages for today, they were building a better future. And speaking of the future, this whole system has a really unique way of empowering the very people who are going to inherit it all, the next generation.
They're called Bal Sabhas and Bal Panchayats, which basically means children's councils. And what they do is create a formal, official platform for kids to actually voice their opinions on stuff that directly affects them. I'm talking about everything from school safety to bigger community issues.
And believe me, this isn't just for show. This has real-world results. Check this out. In Sikkim, a children's council's idea led to building safer school walls and getting cleaner kitchens for their meals. Over in Rajasthan, they created a full-on children's parliament to teach democratic participation. And in Maharashtra, these young leaders have actively worked to help end child labor and child marriage in their own communities. Incredible stuff.
Okay, so you've seen how the system works. You've met the heroes it can create. Now, it's your turn. We're going to put you in the driver's seat. Imagine this. You are a member of your village's Gram Sabha. You're at the meeting, and you've got a problem. So, what's your plan?
All right, here's the scenario. Your village school is located right next to a super busy, dangerous highway. Kids are risking their safety every single day just trying to get to class. This is your problem to solve. What do you do?
Well, here's how the system actually empowers you to find a solution. First off, the students themselves could raise the issue in their own children's council, the Bal Sabha. That gets presented to the Gram Panchayat, which then passes a formal official resolution. But wait, they might need more money for this than the village has. So the resolution moves up the chain of command, through the Panchayat Samiti, all the way to the Zilla Parishad, which can approve the bigger funding. And then finally, the problem is solved. A safe crossing gets built. You see how that works? Every tier works together, and it all started with the voices of the children themselves.
And really, that brings us to the most important takeaway from this whole thing. The Panchayati Raj system proves that real, meaningful power to change your world doesn't have to come from way up at the top. It can start right where you are, in your community, with your voice.